January of 2022, I burnt out. I was going through a divorce. I was living alone. It was post-COVID. My business was struggling. Like there just was a bunch of stuff. And I woke up one day and I just said, I'm done. I got nothing left. I can't be anything but me. I just don't have the energy. And then a couple of days later is when I woke up and I said, okay, well, if I can only be me, then who am I and how can I be more of that?
Hello, and welcome to That's Just Human, a podcast that explores all aspects of being human, living in a human body, and dealing with life's obstacles. I'm your host, Elisha Light Angel, and by day I'm a massage therapist. Right now I'm a podcaster, and like you, I also happen to live in a human body and I have a plethora of human experiences. And this is the space where I like to chat about not just my own experiences, but other people's experiences because we all go through similar things. Today, I have the pleasure of getting to introduce you to Joey Chandler. He is the founder of Certain Growth Solutions and the author of the forthcoming book, Certainty: How to Create Life's Most Elusive Feeling. And after more than a decade of coaching entrepreneurs and business owners, he developed the 3D printed life, which I love that name, by the way, because it's easier and more effective to address multiple areas of life at once than at one time. How true is that? Well, welcome, Joey. Thank you for coming on to this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear from you and a little bit about your journey and really this 3D printed life. Even how you came up with that. It sounds juicy, so I want to hear more. Um,
Yeah, the 3D printed life is I'm really excited about it because I've been working with people and I was kind of I've been a values coach for a while and I took the traditional way of working with people, which is where we say, okay, how do we improve your business or how do we improve your finances or your relationship? Kind of like the way the metaphor is like one wall at a time. And then I read an article where this guy said that we are in a polycrisis where we are dealing with stuff, political, social, economic, technological, relationship. We're dealing with stuff all the time. And especially since COVID, the development of AI, TikTok type of things, we're just dealing with stuff every single moment of every single day. It's like, and so the idea of like, I'm just going to take time to work on my business and set aside the rest of my life just I don't know if it ever was a reality, but it's certainly not the reality these days. And I saw that and I had that vision of the 3D printed house. Have you seen those? Where
yes.
they print the whole house, the walls of the house layer by layer, and they go around and around. And and my core value work allows for that because core values you can apply to your business, you can apply to your fitness, you can apply to your relationship, you can apply to whatever is important to you. And I realized like, oh, that's the way we should be doing things. Rather than trying to build up one wall at a time and scrambling to get them to work, we should work on every day. And I chose the house metaphor. We pick 4 areas of life. And then we just work on every day. We say, okay, how can I improve my business? How can I improve my romance? How can I improve my fitness? And how can I have fun?
Mm.
Those are my 4. And so every day I wake up and I think of like, okay, how can I do this? And then at the end of the day, I document like here, I did this, this, and this in these different areas. And the experience has been, I'm so much more grounded. I wake up and I have this feeling, and it's really hard to describe, but it's awesome. The feeling of I moved my entire life forward today, even just a little bit, even if all I did was I check Bumble for a someone respond to me on for a dating app. If that's all I did for the romance section, that's something, and I moved it forward. And I know in my head that I moved my whole life forward. And if I can do it today, then I can do it tomorrow, and I can do it the day after that. And it just gives you this really great grounded feeling of confidence and certainty
Mm.
in a
I
very,
really,
very uncertain world. That's the other part.
yeah, I really like that analogy. And then the way you put it, how it is like layering up all the different areas because we are an entirely encompassed being And to say I'm going to compartmentalize each section of my life is just not practical. And it doesn't happen. The other thing I've noticed in my own life is if I start to make a change, and this has been, say, most prevalent, and I decide to start working out, that it begins, while my focus is on health or my body, it actually bleeds into all of those other areas and impacts them in positive ways that I would have never imagined when I started the journey. And I think we can do that with a lot of different elements in life where we start one thing in an area and it actually improves all of these other areas or builds those walls.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 100% true. And when you're intentional, when you have some intentionality with like four areas, those lessons learned that you apply from one area to another, they come from all sorts of places. All of a sudden, like honestly, I realized like I have a very clear dating app. Like I know exactly that, like, and I'm like, wow, I should be that clear in my business. Like who I want to work with. I should kind of have a dating app profile for my ideal client. And then I'm like, oh well, what does that really mean for my fun? And like it just, when you have a little bit of intentionality, kind of in a structure, those ideas that you're talking about, those lessons learned, they bounce back and forth all over the place, and it just gives you the sense of like, oh, I'm moving everything forward.
Mm, yeah, I absolutely like that. So, how did you tell me a little bit about your backstory and your journey and that led you to this process and being able to do this now?
Yeah, yeah. So it really came down to a question of I asked myself, who am I and how can I be more of that? And the where that started was in January of 2022. I burnt out. I was going through a divorce. I was living alone. It was post COVID. My business was struggling. Like there just was a bunch of stuff. And I woke up one day and I just said, I'm done. I got nothing left. I can't be anything but me. I just don't have the energy. And then a couple of days later is when I woke up and I said, okay, well, if I can only be me, then who am I and how can I be more of that? And that question led me into looking at core values. At the time, I had 5 core values, and a friend of mine told me a story about how Navy SEALs put everything in sets of 3, and because it's just easier to remember when you're getting shot at. It's kind of the
Okay.
real basic principle. Like, and at the time, I was, I don't know if you ever burnt out, but when you burnt out, like you just have nothing. Like you just have nothing. And I just was like, sounds easier. I'll do it. Like that was it. There was no deep thought, transformation, anything. And then from that day, I could wake up and say, okay, how can I bring a little connection, a little curiosity and courage? Those were my values at the time. Courage has morphed into fun for me. So now my values are connection, curiosity, and fun. But it started that. I just would wake up and when you're burnt, you have no energy. So at first it was like, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get a glass of water, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, I'm gonna get back into bed. That was as courageous as I could be on certain days. But that baby step led to more baby steps. And because I was reinforcing my values, it kind of laid the foundation, layer by layer. I didn't know this at the time, but it was basically layer by layer. And eventually, within a couple months, I recovered from burnout. And what was interesting is that I didn't do any like yoga or meditation or journaling or any kind of the traditional anti-burnout routines. I just focused on being more of me. And that made me realize that being anything other than yourself is just simply exhausting. Like it just takes too much work, especially now with like inside of all this, the poly crisis, right? Where there's so much
Mm.
stuff. And
So, would you say that you were trying to be not you or who you thought you were supposed to be, like leading up to this burnout?
yeah,
Um,
I think I was making it too complicated ultimately. Like I had some idea of who I was, and rather than like getting more grounded in that, I was like adding layers on top of things. But I'd work on my marketing, and I'd work on this, and I'd try to be like in my relationship, I was trying to do all these different things rather than saying like what is it that I really want, um and I this is one of those things like I don't know if I could have come to this without going through the burnout. So I don't. I just think in retrospect, I lacked 3 things really. I lacked clarity about who I was, like really like grounded. I wasn't confident in myself and my ability to take actions that aligned with those values. And then I just didn't have the conviction to be myself, to stand up, say, no, I'm going to be me rather than, whatever this is. And like I was going through the divorce, and I was the traditional guy where I fought. I was like, I'm trying to get her back, and all that kind of stuff. But at a certain point, I just kind of accepted, like, wait a minute, I wasn't happy either in the relationship. Like we were both unhappy. She was the one that, and I said, you know what, we're getting divorced. Took a deep breath, and I said, so then I filed the paperwork. I said, I'm gonna take some agency in that, and that was just like that was a step for me, kind of being like curious, like, okay, how, if this is happening, how can I be me in this? And I'm someone that would fight. I would be someone who filed the paperwork. That's when I realized, even though I didn't want to, even though I was like, this sucks, but I'm going to do that. And and like those little steps like that just gave me the foundation to just keep moving forward and be more of me. I, and it's actually a good question. Like, since that day when I started saying, how can I bring my values to, I ask that question multiple times every day. And so now I just have a far deeper understanding of what my values mean to me, what it feels like in our body. You're a masseuse, a body work, right? So somatic awareness. When things are like really good and when they're really not. And my guess is for many years, I had some somatic awareness that was saying things are not working, and I was just trying to push them down. And that is, you're fighting against your body. That's exhausting. It's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to something. For me, it led to burnout.
Yeah, it will lead to something. A lot of could be burnout, could be some kind of dis-ease in the body that presents itself as a physical ailment, and we do. I think our society kind of pushes us to be so busy all the time. We get these ideas in our head, whether it's from family, society at large, or media, that we need to be some kind of a version of ourselves that is unrealistic, doesn't actually align with our values, or we're just trying to think, we're trying to be something that we think we should be and not who we actually are.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would say my highest value is authenticity. And I don't see it in a lot of people. So it's very refreshing to come across people that are just being who they are. And that means in the positive moments and those sloppy, messy moments, like, because we encompass all of it.
Yeah. 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 And just being clear. And I will say getting your values down to three is really helpful. Like, it's just mostly because when you're in those sloppy moments, that's when you need your values the most as the foundation. And if you have 5 or 7 or 10, it just takes more work. And in those moments, you don't have the energy. You really don't. So when you can get them down to three, it's not that you don't have more than 3 values, but when you have 3 that are really strong, they just become a more effective tool for doing things.
Yeah. So how do you use the values and like help other people?
Yeah. So I'll just continue the story. So after I got done with the values, I when I recovered from burnout, I kind of like went hog wild. I was like, values, values, values. Like, I was all over the place. Like, and but I started to realize that I wasn't producing the results for myself and for my clients that I knew was possible. Like, I recovered from burnout without help post COVID. Like, and I just don't know that many people that did that. Like, I haven't heard that many stories. Especially only took a little bit of, a couple of months, didn't have to quit my job. Like, I was like, this is cool. There's something here. And I went to work, but I realized that after a few months, I realized that there's a difference between who we are and how we operate.
Mm.
Who we are is our values. How we apply them to our life is how we operate, and that gives us confidence. And I sat down and I realized that what really made the difference wasn't so much my values. I mean, they were helpful, but it was me asking every day, how can I bring my values to my day? That was how I was operating. And so I went to work and I developed a system. I call it the refinement engine, and it's 6 questions. And I asked, this is literally my coaching calls. Like, this is almost 100%. We always start with, what can you celebrate about yesterday? Because that triggers dopamine in the brain and gives you like a little energy boost. Then we say, what did you learn from that? And that triggers the growth mindset, gets you kind of, again, opens up the mind. And then we say, what is your goal? And this goal could be business, could be relationship, it could be, whatever your goal is today. And then the big one is what is the fear that comes up immediately when you think of that goal? Because anytime you set a goal, especially a meaningful goal, some fear, I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes. One of those, right? Those are mine. I'm guessing you might have your
Yeah.
own, are going to come up. And I'm not a therapist. I don't do any like, where did those thoughts come from? Or, tell me about your mother. I don't do any of that type of stuff. We just acknowledge them. This is that's what's there. And then that basically allows us to put them aside. And then we can ask, what do your values say to do? And all of my clients, we get down to 3 values, and they'll explore different ideas. And then we say, okay, of that, which one can you do, or which one or 2 can you do today? And when you choose something that you can do today, that gives you clarity, that gives you confidence, and that gives you conviction. And so those 6 questions are actually energy positive. You can come into that like completely drained, no energy, hating life, and you will end up in a more clear, confident, and convicted state, or not convicted, state of conviction, and you'll have more energy, and you'll have the energy to go do whatever it is that you said you're going to do. And the cool part is, as soon as you take that action, you have something to celebrate the next day. And so
Yeah.
the whole thing rotates.
I like this spin on it because I have experienced burnout and had to bounce back. It took a lot longer than 2 months for me. It was more like 3 years. And so at the same time, you're still having to live your life. You can't stop working and just wander off to the forest and forest bathe. I mean, it sounds nice and fantasy, but it's
Yeah.
not. It's not practical. It's not real. And so for me, it was getting partnered with somebody who was supportive for me, which allowed me to soften and settle in other areas of my life, and then just kind of slowly feel as though some of my energy and things that had been drained out of me were coming back, and then feeling like I had more of me to interact with other people and do things that I want in the world. Um, but I do have values. I've just never thought to use them in this way. And I like kind of going through, what can I celebrate about yesterday? That's almost like a gratitude practice, but slightly different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. So for me, gratitude is, or I'll say this: celebration creates more ownership. I can be grateful for the beautiful blue sky, the mountains that I'm looking out at. Like that's I live in Reno, and so there's I can see the mountains. So I can be grateful for any of that, but that has nothing to do. I didn't do anything to cause any of that. But when you celebrate, like I made a phone call, or tomorrow I'll be able to celebrate that I was on this podcast. I had some intentionality in that. I played a role in making that thing happen, and so that creates ownership, or what people in positive psychology call self-efficacy, a sense of like I can do itness. And
Yeah.
so gratitude is awesome. Like I'm all for gratitude practices, but it is slightly different. And inside of this world of trying to help people make greater use of their values, at some point you're going to have to say, I can do this. And that's why we use a celebration practice rather than a gratitude practice.
Hmm. So, do you just name the celebration, or do you have people do like a little yippee happy dance, or I don't know what constitutes celebrating?
It's really just acknowledgement. It's not, you don't have to, because again, I was coming from the spot of like, how can I do this when I was burnt out? And if
Mm.
you can imagine, like when you were burnt out, if I came in and I said, okay, I want you to do a happy dance and celebrate yesterday, you you would have been like, mother, and so, and now, but now, like, if it comes up naturally, if you're like, I can't, like, uh, I had a guy, I have a client who's a dad who's gone through a divorce, and he's like, I went bowling this week with a guy friend. I called up a guy friend and we went bowling, and he was so excited about that because that was the first time that he had, done something just for fun and friendship.
Mm.
because he had got divorced and business and all the stuff. But this time he's like, I went bowling, and he was so excited. And we talked about it for a while. So sometimes it comes up naturally, but other times, like I did stand up comedy for a couple months last year, and
Cool.
turns out I'm not real funny, but I tried. And the first time that I bombed horribly, like I just crawled into bed. Like if you ever done stand up, when you bomb, it's awful. And like you crawl into bed, and there was nothing left. And I got up the next morning, and I'm like, I got nothing to celebrate. And I'm like, okay, I got up. I tried. What did I learn? Bombing sucks. Like, and I went through the process. And so, and the reason each one of those six questions are actually scientifically backed. Celebrate, like each one does something, but what I did that's different, it's the order of which. Because when you can celebrate anything, it gives you just a little tiny boost, and then you're like, what can you learn from it? It gives a little bit of space, and then you can say, my goal, like stand up. My goal was like, okay, well, I want to do this again. Let me, what are my fears? Well, I'm not funny. I really suck at this. What are my values of, connection, curiosity, and fun say to do? Well, I can get curious about the next one, and I can go try to do it. And I did it for a few more months, but that recovery from the burnout or from the bombing was really informative, because some
Mm.
days you're going to wake up, you're not going to be your celebration is not going to be a happy dance. It's going to be, I have another client. He's like, I didn't kill anybody yesterday. And so I'm going to celebrate that because I really, really wanted to, because we have those days. Those are
You
real
do.
days.
Yeah, I can definitely relate, and I've heard lots of people, have those days like I didn't do this terrible thing, and I'm glad that I made it this far. I'm not in jail.
Yeah. And that's like, if you're a parent, my kid is still alive. Is has to be something you celebrate on certain days.
Yes, absolutely. No, I really like that take, because I think I can be more positively minded, or I'm the person that you can call up and I will find you a silver lining in your cloud all the time. I'm really good at that. And so I'm always kind of looking for that positive spin. My brain just works that way. But I am surrounded by more people who are a little more melancholic or nihilistic. And I understand that's an entire viewpoint on life, and it's valid. Um, but you're right. Sometimes we're just making it through. And
Yeah.
so celebrating the fact that we made it through the day, and maybe now you get to lay in bed, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, it wasn't this last weekend, or maybe a couple weeks. I think it was a couple weekends ago. I just had a day where I woke up and I'm like, I just need to watch Netflix today. Like, I just was
Yeah.
like, it was so funny because at first I was kind of like, no, I got to get, I really kind of resisted it. But because I had been doing actually the 3D printed life approach, I had proof that I had been working on multiple areas of my life and I knew that, and I knew that I was going to do it again. That just gave me the confidence and to just surrender to watching. It was Narcos Mexico. Like I just had to had to watch this, and it was like all this time, and it was, but that ability to just surrender. Sometimes your body's like, look, we got to take a break. And
Hmm.
it's so hard to do that sometimes. But when you have a foundation of your values and you know that you've been working on them and, intentionally, you've been doing the work, it just gives you the space to, you know what? I'm doing whatever your version of Narcos Mexico is.
Uh, I think I think I only had two values, and I've been thinking while you're talking, like, what would a third value be? And I think it should be fun.
Yeah.
My third value should be fun, and because I really relate to what you said. I am a creative person. I have ideas hit me all the time, so I want to just get it all out there. And I book up my schedule. I've got my work. I do theater at night. I do this podcast. I'm taking a class. Like I just pile stuff on my plate. I'm like, yeah, I'm superhuman. I got this. And then I find myself asking, why did I schedule all this stuff when I just want a free flowing day to either do nothing or go out and do something that's kind of meaningless, like just for fun, and it's not productive. I have a tendency to want to constantly be productive. And there's an air of fun to that, but it's also recognizing don't burn myself out.
Yeah. And so you said your values were authenticity, fun, and was it creativity? Was that?
No.
Oh,
I would say authenticity and honesty, they kind of go hand in hand in my mind.
yeah.
I'd say love and kindness. Like I really do when in all the actions that I'm doing, I ask myself, am I approaching this in from a place of love or is this from a place of my ego or another emotion? And I am very, very big on that. And then I would say fun. I really think that we should be having fun in life and I can take it too serious, so having to remind my own self that to lighten up a little bit and just have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind if I go into a little bit of coaching mode just to
Yes.
because I'm like looking at your cat and your pink and all that stuff and the fact that you do a podcast and you do theater, I'm guessing creativity has to be part of who you are.
I think it's just there. I never think of myself as a creative person, but other people do, and I know I have creativity,
Okay. Is
but
there
it's not.
so then is that because here's let me go back. So you're about love. You're about people
Mhm.
loving their life. Is that fair?
Um, I'm very about love, like just living
Yeah.
and being from a place of love.
Right. So love is what I call is one of our five core words. It's love, joy, happiness, excitement, and freedom. Like when you really like people are like generally in one of those five areas, like that's who they are. But those words are very big and broad and mean different things to different people and aren't like tactical on a day to day. So for you, what does love mean to you? You said authenticity, you said fun. What would be the third thing that love is for you?
Um, I think that kindness element, that ability to look at somebody else and just offer them, whether it's a smile, a kind word, or not saying something mean, even if you have something that comes across your mind, just keep it to yourself. Like, just be kind because
Okay.
you don't know where somebody else is or what they're going through in their mind.
Yeah.
And, um, and so yeah, that kindness
Yeah.
aspect.
Okay, awesome. So, and would you prefer authenticity or honesty? Which one of those land for you better?
I think authenticity.
Okay. So authenticity, kindness, and fun. That's who you are. Does that
Yeah,
land about right?
yeah.
So here's where it gets fun. How is being a body worker, a masseuse? How is that an expression of authenticity, kindness, and fun?
Um, I'm a giver. And so for me, when I am giving to another person, so in body work, like it's very nurturing. Like I have this motherly essence that comes out and I feel like I receive this etheric energy when I'm giving to other people. It is a reciprocal thing for me to be in that space giving. So
Yeah.
I'm authentically pouring from my heart and being present with the person. And then they feel good, and I feel good that they feel good. And so it feeds my soul in a way, even though it is work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun. That part's fun, right? Like that back and forth is fun for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And clients, like they got stories and lives. And so when you have somebody that sees you regularly, they become like a friend and you look forward to getting to update each other on what's happened in the past couple of weeks with you.
Yeah. And then how is being an actor or an actress? How's that part of authenticity,
Oh
kindness,
man,
and fun?
this is like my first love passion in life, and I had to give it up for about 20 years when I had my son because you act for free, and I found myself as a single mom shortly after, so there was no free acting happening at
Right.
all. And now I find myself in a place where there's this community theater that I've tapped into, and it's just juicy to like step
Mhm.
into this character to become this other person that's completely nothing like me at all and seeing then if I can have the audience believe me as this character. It's fun to do the rehearsals and to interact with the people. So there's this social aspect to it. And then you create the community, such as community theater. So it really
Yeah.
is people that love the theater arts. Like we're all volunteering our time copiously because we love it.
You could love it. Yeah, yeah. Ryan Gosling. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but Ryan Gosling talks about how acting for him is kind of like equalize or having a equalizer in music, where he's like, this is who I am, and what I do for my characters, I find out where I can turn parts of myself up or parts of myself down to fit the character. And I'm going to guess that when you act, when you're doing really well, you're turning different parts of authenticity up or down, different parts of kindness up or down, and different parts of having fun up or down. And
Yeah.
that allows you to find your place in that, whatever particular role you're doing.
Yeah, it definitely has to come from an element of us because
Yeah.
we are lending ourselves to this character and tapping into that emotion. Like the character I'm working on right now, she's gets in a fight with her husband. She's like yelling at people. And at this point in life, I used to yell, and I've worked very hard on not being a yeller because I realized that is not a loving way to communicate to anybody, especially the people that we love the most.
Right.
And that's who would usually be the brunt of an explosive yell. Um, but here, I get to just like, I mean, full volume, full send yelling, like, ah, and it's just kind of fun because it's not my everyday beingness or talking to
Yeah.
anybody in any way. My character's kind of rough. So again, just like a different element of life.
Well, I'm wondering, like, what is fun for her? Because she must not be having fun, and that's why she's so angry.
I don't think that she's having fun. This play is set in 1947, and shortly after World War II, women are oppressed. Her husband's a cheater and a little abusive. Like, you
Yeah.
just, back then, women just had to stay married in these relationships they weren't happy with. And so, yeah, I don't think that she was having
Oh,
any
right, right.
fun.
And she couldn't really be authentic, or she could in some places, but not in a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
And she probably didn't feel like she could actually be kind because she was so operating on top of all that stuff. So you could totally play with all that. Sorry, I went into coaching mode there. Um,
No, I like it. I like it. Give me more
I
ideas to deepen my character
Sure.
work.
Yeah, I love working with like artistic and creative people because we can really start to just explore. Like you start to ask, like, okay, this is what fun means to me. Then you could start to say, what does fun mean to this person? And you have a way of connecting with that person, and that's authentic and real. You're not just making stuff up. And then you could play with it. You'd be like, wow, like yeah, like it would not be a lot of fun. Like how or how did she have fun inside of all of that? Where did she have fun? And anyway, you could go. I get all
Yeah,
excited.
I like it. I like it. Now thinking more.
Yeah.
But we won't go into all that and bore my audience with the details of character analysis. Oh, so when you get people coming to you now, are most of your people in a state of burnout and kind of looking, or what are their issues that they're looking to solve?
Yeah, usually they're usually in one or two places. One, y- they're in a state of overwhelm. I wouldn't say anyone's ever like burnt out because when you're burnt out, it's really hard. Like you can't even think straight. Like hiring a coach when you're burnt out is almost impossible because you're not going to do anything that the coach says to do. You're just going to do your own thing. So at that point they don't come to me, but they are in a state of overwhelm. And this overwhelm could be because like I have one client who is he just started doing stand-up comedy, funny enough, and he got a new job and he's getting paid to do stand-up comedy now. And so there's just all this stuff going on. And he's like, this is all good, but I'm all over the place. Like, what can we do? And so we're getting clear on his values, and we're working on building up his house. So he's not necessarily burnt out, and he's not overwhelmed in like a bad way, but he is in that sense of like, I got too much going on. Um, and, but, living true to your values takes something. To wake up every day and say, "Hey, how can I use my values?" It takes a little bit. So you have to be, and it involves letting go of your ego quite a bit, because you're just saying like, how can I bring more of myself to the situation? And so it really helps to either one be in a spot where you're just coachable, and where I find the people that are most coachable are people that are either overwhelmed and they really want to get out of the situation, or the other people are like people that are doing extremely well and they just want a new experience. They're like, I'm doing great. Like, what's something new that I can do? And so I'm like, hey, I'll basically kind of challenge you and push you to live more true to your values. And I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll find out. And I had one client who his values were love, harmony, and fun, and he ended up. He was doing really well. He's super fit, and all, but he ended up. He's like, you know what? My wife and I would have more love, harmony, and fun if we actually worked together. And so they merged their business. Turns out they had synergistic businesses. They merged their business. And while there was an initial drop, they're now coming back up. They're doing way more in business. They're spending more time together. They're laughing more. Like there's just all this stuff. And he didn't come to me because anything was really wrong with him. He just was like, I kind of like the way you're talking. Let me give this a try. And so, you just have to be open to exploring your life in kind of a different way. And I find the people that are best for that, either you're really stuck and you want to get out of it, or you're doing really well and you're like, you know what, I want to try something new.
I like it. Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like people from all sorts of walks of life, and getting into this work just narrows things down even better for them. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
And all of it, the fun part for me, like my fun is seeing someone come up with their own ideas, coming up with like, like the guy who's the stand-up comedic. One of his things was self-care, and we just started working together the past couple of weeks. So he's like, you know what, I'm gonna take my dog for a walk. And he's like, I can do that. And like it was just this, like he's like this idea. And I had another guy who his thing was fitness, and he again self-care too. And he's like, man, I just don't have time. And one of his values was creativity. And so like, okay, how can we bring a little creativity to your health, to your fitness? And he laughed because he's like, I am standing looking at a treadmill. He had a treadmill in his office. He's like, I am looking at a treadmill. I could be doing this call on a treadmill. And I'm like, yeah. So we started doing walking. So we started doing walking talks. He would be on his treadmill. I'd go for a walk and we would talk. But it's just fun because like I could never coach him. Like I'm never going to be like, do you have a treadmill in your office? I could never do that. But he came up with his own idea. And this is one of the best parts about core value work is the ideas that you come up with land true to you, and then they mean something, then they're real. It's not like, oh, I tried this guy's idea out and I did it. He's like, no, I came up with the idea. And I think
Yeah.
that's really rewarding in a way that I haven't seen in a lot of other coaching kind of scenarios.
Mm. Yeah, I would say I feel like coaching can be kind of a buzzword in our society at this point because so many people have that. But as I talk to you more, I'm sitting here thinking how coaching is really getting somebody who has a different perspective to help pull your perspectives out and get you thinking like into a better place. Uh, just just thinking about how people might conceptualize coaching. Like, why would I even want to coach? Or this is something just fancy people do, but I don't think it is something that you do when you're just trying to be fancy or get a step ahead or whatever connotations.
Yeah, I love that, fancy people. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting because there's a lot of people that are coaches, and there's but there is a problem in the coaching industry if we're going to admit it. Like we've had coaching now for 30 years, 30, maybe 40 years. I mean, there's like whole generations of people that have grown up with coaching being a part of, the zeitgeist. And we still have record numbers of loneliness. We have the AI despair right now is going on. There's burnout. There's a lot of problems. So there's something in the coaching world that's not working. There's something that needs to be addressed. And personally, I think it's because the value work isn't strong enough. The value work is too intellectual. Like lots of people have gone to corporate workshops, and they're like, we come with their values, and they get given a list of 100 words, and they pick 10, and then they get them down to 5, or whatever that is. But it's intellectual. It doesn't land in their heart and their guts, and people aren't asking them, hey, your values are authenticity, fun, and kindness. Like, how can you bring that to whatever situation you're in? How can you use those values? We're trying to tell them something new rather than strengthening our values. And so this is my little TED talk. But if it's, I think the more that people understand their values, the more we're going to have the clarity, the confidence, the energy, the conviction to take on these big challenges that we have. The loneliness, the politics, social disagreements, all that kind of stuff. It takes something. And so I think lots of people should have coaches. I mean, I have a coach, and you need somebody to help you talk through stuff, but you want someone that's going to help you be more of you rather than trying to tell you what to do.
I like that. Yeah. So if people wanted to find you and work with you, where could they find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm at certaingrowth.com. And you can contact me there. All the information's there. And I'm at Joey Chandler 70 across all. I'm mostly on LinkedIn and TikTok and Facebook. So,
Okay,
but yeah, they can
awesome.
reach out.
I'll also put links into the show notes and description. So if you are listening and you want to go have an easy clickable link, that's how you can do it. And I have one last question for you as we wrap up.
Sure.
If you have one bit of wisdom or advice that you could leave the listeners with, what would that be?
Yeah. Figure out your core values and just own the shit out of them. Sorry. That's the like the more I do this, everyone has core values. They're all there. And where they come from, I don't know, but I know we all have them. And the more that you can own them and apply them to your dating life, apply them to your business, apply them to your family, apply them to whatever, the more grounded you'll be, the more energized you'll be, the more confident, the more excited, the more all the good stuff you'd be, and it will come from you being more of you in those situations. So my advice is figure out your values and just own the heck out of them.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing a piece of you and what you do and how you help other people improve their lives. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For those out there, you can help my show by sharing. If you think somebody needs to hear this, you can leave 5-star reviews for me on Apple, iTunes, Spotify. You can also head over to YouTube and see our faces if you're just listening. And you can give a like, a comment, subscribe to my channel. All of this helps the algorithm in getting my podcast out there to more people that might like to hear some of the amazing stories and messages that I share. As you embrace your humanness, be kind, be you, and remember, everything is part of the journey.